basis. You know, the school board got us into this Common Core thing, which is probably as bad as Obamacare. And they did it without your consent or approval. And we urge you to get us out of Common Core. It's just horrible, and it's getting worse every year.
Good statement.
Does anybody have any comment on that?
Still waiting for a Marta question, though.
Back over to this side. Do we have another question on this side?
Could you comment on the probability of getting the independent school systems formed, getting a two-thirds vote, two-thirds of the votes in both the House and the Senate?
Right now, you know, probabilities are a hard thing. I give it a 50% probability. It's either going to happen or it's not this year. We're under several constraints right now.
You've been down there too long. You've been down there too long.
The issue really is we still have vacant seats. We had a couple of deaths in the House. We've had people who have left to have state jobs. We've got people still in runoff elections. This is a big hill to climb. When Jan Jones did the charter school bill a couple of years ago, she whipped, you know, what they call whipping, counting the votes, and she knew she had 120 votes, and it came up 119. 119 isn't 120. But like the city of the thing, if we can't get it this year because of a compressed session, because of the way it is, we're going to keep coming back because the status quo is just unacceptable. And I think, like I said, you're going to see the same folks on the school board get reelected, and we've got to break out of this somehow. The good thing about it is this is not just Dunwoody. This affects 16 cities. In mostly North Fulton, North DeKalb. But I've had folks come to me from other counties saying, hey, we need to do this too, because we've got some of the highest per student costs and some of the lowest graduation rates. And at the end of the day, statewide, we've got to improve that. But to answer your question directly, we spent 3 years getting the city bill through. You know, we lost a vote by 4 votes one time. You know, the next year we came back and won it big. But that's just the nature of the thing. You also have to understand that when we got sworn in last January, in the House of 180 members, 81 of us had served 2 years or less. So there's been a lot of transition and a lot of you know, institutional knowledge lost. So some of these folks, we just don't really know where they stand on it yet, and that's the best I can answer the question. We're going to hammer and tongs here.
It's a long-term thing. Tom's trying to lower the expectations a little bit. He's saying, look, we talked about Milton County for the last decade. Okay, that takes 120 votes. And the Speaker Pro Tem of the House lives there. Okay, so understand you're also, when you start talking about schools, you start talking about hospitals down there, and Dan will tell you this as well, that those are the 2 most powerful institutions once you get outside the metro area. They control a lot of things. So we've got a lot of work to do on this thing, and it's a long-term proposition. It's the right thing. Logically, it makes sense when he sits here with a $30 million surplus. But as you know, with the General Assembly, we don't always do everything logically.
Any other comments? All right, over on this side, yes. Michael. Oh, I'm sorry. Get you next time. I didn't see you.
I just wanted to give Mike a chance to talk about MARTA. I've seen it, I think, since it began. I remember when it started, the 2 referendums, the first one failed, and then it finally passed. Obviously, I think most of us believe that it should be expanded. It should be expanded into Cobb, Gwinnett, Clayton, other areas of the metro region, just to help alleviate the traffic problems that we have. And so you talk about what you see happening, whether it will be so expanded, and then also it seems to me that a solid basic infrastructure of rapid transit and other systems that are usable and desirable by the citizens of the region will greatly enhance our economic development going forward. And to not do that is going to be a major problem, I think, for the whole metro region.
Put that down, Craig. He's getting ready for you. I don't got this. Okay. Well, I'm glad you asked the question. Let's start here. I mean, ultimately, we do want to get to something that is more regional and more comprehensive. That probably won't come in the form of an expansion so much as it will come in the form, at least in the initial place, of putting together what we have already. Cobb has a transit system, Gwinnett has a transit system, we have Greta, and then there's MARTA. Now, we weren't ever going to get there with MARTA hemorrhaging red ink the way that it was. And so the KPMG audit, the management audit that was done 2 years ago in 2012, or it was completed at the end of 2012, that recommended privatization of certain aspects of MARTA's operation, the paratransit buses, which are very expensive to operate, MARTA's payroll department. They actually had live employees issuing paper checks, cleaning the buses and trains. All of that is aimed at getting MARTA to a point where it's more sustainable, where they save money and they ultimately turn their fiscal ship around. Turning their fiscal ship around, and by the way, they're doing it, okay? I mean, we had legislation to require it to be done. That didn't pass, but it did make a point. And we have pulled MARTA in every 2 months to ask for their progress, and they are right on schedule following the recommendations of the KPMG audit. Now, what we can then do, if MARTA starts to operate back in the black, is leverage that into some improvements. And I think in the first instance, that's going to come. ARC is studying how to weave together the fair. Hold on 1 second, Greg. It's my one chance to talk about MARTA. ARC is working on how to weave together the fare systems of the various systems. And I think after this election, we probably will see some state interest in participating in that, which will be the first step toward bringing everyone together. Probably a rebranding will have to happen at some point across the entire system. But it's all about getting MARTA's fiscal ship righted and then pulling MARTA into the patchwork that we have now and making it all work together. And that is the end game here.
Greg, one thing.
Yes.
I served on a committee, regional transit committee we just did, with, you had Cobb, Gwinnett, MARTA, and Greta. And one of the things coming out of, we're going to develop a common web page for all these things. So you can actually plan your trip. Brandon Beach talked about his experience from going from Kennesaw out to Gwinnett Arena. It took him 3.5 hours to get there, okay? That's not acceptable. I will tell you, these agencies are all working together. We are going to go to a regional transit system. He's right. With MARTA getting his fiscal house in order, we will get to a regional transit organization here. It's a lot slower than most people would like, but it's obviously the key to economic development. You've got to be able to get people to work. You're absolutely right, Bob.
And for those of us here in Fulton and DeKalb counties, remember, we've been paying the full freight for MARTA, okay? I mean, I saw someone back there with their thumb down as I was saying all of that. I mean, it is absurd that we should be carrying this burden on our backs alone, okay? This benefits Fulton and DeKalb taxpayers, whether you want to acknowledge it or not.
I just want to follow up on Mike's saying with the privatization issues. This is really necessary. The audit looked at that. Just to give you an idea, you know, 2 fields that I recognize right away, like the cities have privatized a lot of services. Payroll, MARTA has a full-size in-house payroll staff. You know, who doesn't farm out to ADT or something like that now? You know, the other one that really gets me, because I ride MARTA almost every day, is the janitorial and cleaning of the trains. Those folks start at $28 an hour with a fully loaded benefits package. I think the training curve on that job is about 3 minutes. You know, this is a dustpan, this is a broom, and that's it. That is not a sustainable model. That's not, you know, that doesn't reflect the market in the janitorial industry. So.
All right.
Yeah, my name is Jim Dixon. I think what Tom Taylor and Fran Miller said that previously in answer to Mayor Carmichael's question was factually incorrect and very misleading. I'll try to in 1 minute explain it, but I doubt if I can do it under current cap. There's a 3.04 millage cap in the current charter. In order to exceed it, you have to have a citywide vote to exceed it. There's no exceptions to it, including fire. Yes, you could take over fire. You'd have to eliminate the police department, maybe some appropriate paving. So to get around that, the Charter Commission recommended creating a separate fire tax bucket to circumvent that language that gets around the requirement for a citywide vote. Now, most of us think there's a pretty good idea to maybe take over fire, but we'd like to have the right to vote for it. Trust the people. The irrefutable fact is you're taking away that right to vote. Ironically, in my driveway this morning is this paper that comes, Brand Miller, we've always given people the right to vote, and I hope we will. Well, that's not happening.
I guess we just agree to disagree.
Any other comments from the panel?
Jim, I've got your tax bill here. If you want to stop by afterwards, I can just delineate the lines. This isn't a dialogue. I can explain it to you.
Yes.
This is tacking on to the earlier question about water. Wendell, you had mentioned growth with perimeter area and with office buildings and new apartments and all, and this is something we face the minute we get out of our door, during home. It's what are you going to do about traffic in the general area, 285,
Well,
squash, well, so where do we go?
You're exactly right. We're a desirable area. This is the most desirable area to live in and to work in all the metropolitan area. Probably, I said the southeast, in fact. Very proud of it. You have a lot of things going on coordination-wise between Dunwoody, Sandy Spring, and the Perimeter Community Improvement District. And as an example, all your traffic lights are getting hooked in together as far as a fiber network that would improve the flow of traffic. It is no longer the greatest fear in the world to travel from 285 going north on Roswell Road or going south on Roswell like it used to be. We've improved that tremendously by having a system that is monitored on a 24-hour basis if necessary, but you have the ability to control the lights changing based upon traffic flows. Intersection improvements. We're improving, I know in Sandy Springs, most of the major intersections where you need to have lanes for turning, the acceleration lanes. These are things that are happening improved. Well, one would be right there at East Street, Dunwoody at Spalding Drive, right?
Great.
Major improvement. That street has improved the flow of traffic tremendously. So that things can be done. It's a matter of coordination between the governments. We certainly look to the state government also to give us assistance. You can't stop the growth. This is a very desirable area. In fact, God, it is. It keeps the property values up too. But there are things that we can do as far as coordination between the city governments, with our perimeter CID, and also with state health. We're looking to encourage, in fact, Governor Deal has put on a high priority the improvements that need to be done at 400 and 285. This is the #1 project, but it's an $800 billion job.
Yeah, I mean, the fact of the matter is the T-SPLOS was defeated. So we're living within the means that we have on transportation funding. But I will say this, the players up here in Perimeter Center do a very good job of keeping projects in this area at the top of the pile statewide, okay? And that's why you will continue to see transportation improvements up here. Frankly, it is a concerted lobbying effort by Yvonne Williams, who heads the Perimeter Community Improvement Districts, and the stakeholders up here with Governor Deal that made 285 and 400 the priority that it will be as we move forward in a more constrained transportation funding environment.
There is some legislation, where several counties can get together if they want to do some transportation improvements. You may see that work go down the road. My guess would be in the long run, the transportation, just take 400, going up 400, expanding that market, for example. At the end of the day, most of us think when you expand market, it's going to be via bus rapid transit, not heavy rail. It costs $500 million to go up to Windward with bus rapid transit. It costs $2 to $2.5 billion to do it with heavy rail. We only get half the funds from the feds that we used to get. So, but I do think you're going to see, particularly after the election, it is an election year, I think you're going to see a larger emphasis on transit after the statewide elections this year.
I just want to follow up on what Mike said. The PCID has done a great job, and Yvonne in particular has done a great job in leveraging state and federal money and also putting a lot of their own money on the table. They've got $20 million on the table right now with, towards 400, 285. A couple